Welcome to Bright by Your Side with Jen, up leveling in the age of anxiety with groundbreaking science. I am your host, Jen Dyer, here on Transformation Talk Radio. And today we're talking about what your doctor isn't telling you that's stressing you out. And this is because I believe if you have a recurring health condition and you don't really understand why it keeps coming back or why it won't go away, it creates a low level drone of anxiety in the background of your mind because your body is always trying to heal itself. In fact, it usually does. When you get a cut, it sends in the white blood cells to kill germs and it creates new skin. And the fact that it knows how to do that without you even trying is amazing. So we got to take care of our bodies, but our bodies are always trying to heal and they'll let you know if there's something wrong. The other thing is that your subconscious is always trying to solve your problems for you. And you know this because it does it while you're sleeping. So between your subconscious and your body, when you have something that's kind of not right, you're going to get the whispers and it's going to start weighing on you. So in my research, I have come across some things that shocked me. A lot of them affected me personally, and I wanted to share them with you because I do know people who suffer from some of these things, me being one of them. And it does create anxiety. And so the fact that I know what was kind of causing it or what contributing to these issues I was having made me feel so much better because it gives me control, right? So I'm just going to list them down real quick and then we'll talk about each one. But I want to make sure you guys hang out to the last one about C-section babies, cesarean-section babies. This is really, really serious. And I have a solution. And that's why it's so important because we all know someone who is either a C-section baby or has had a C-section baby or is scheduled to have one soon. So we'll talk about that. So here's what I'm going to go over. Too much spinach causes kidney stones. Yeah, our superfood. Too much causes kidney stones. Orange juice suppresses your immune system. Hello, that's opposite. For up to 6 hours, it suppresses your immune system for up to 6 hours. Like that's the whole time your kids are in school, right? Diet sweeteners make you pre-diabetic. Opposite. Diet sweeteners make you pre-diabetic. And that we're talking your stevia and your monk fruit and your Splenda, all the things that you think are good for you. Mouthwash also causes diabetes, but it causes increased blood pressure. It raises your systolic blood pressure. Crazy. Coffee and cocoa prevent iron absorption by up to 90%. So if you're that person who's kind of borderline anemic, it might be your coffee or the chocolate that you keep in your desk. Okay, sugar causes Alzheimer's. This is known, but olive oil reverses Alzheimer's. Hang on for that one. That one's crazy. That one I have researched. In fact, all of the studies are hopefully below in the links. I have all the links to the studies. These are real. Yes, olive oil, extra virgin, reverses Alzheimer's, dementia, cognitive decline. Yes, take it like medicine. We'll talk about that. And then C-section babies, you guys. C-section babies are 20% more likely to get type 1 diabetes by the time they're 17. Type 1 is the kind where kids have to give themselves shots. Okay. So, and if they had antibiotics by the time they're 2 years old, they're even more likely. So we'll talk about why that is. And actually we do have a solve for that too. So don't panic. So like I said, our health is our mental health. It's all related. So let's get into too much spinach. All right. Too much spinach causes kidney stones, and it's because of the oxalates. Oxalates are basically in all vegetables, but spinach is really high, and it's the one that we are leaning on the most. So if you eat more oxalates than your body can process, they float around, they bind with your minerals, specifically your calcium, which you need, and then they form crystals and they get stuck in your kidneys. Simple as that. So the other vegetables or other plants that are high in oxalates are almonds and soybeans and anything dark leafy green, which of course was my entire diet. So I got to tell you though, a friend of mine was on vacation in England, finds himself writhing on the floor in pain. They race him to the hospital. He's on vacation, remember? And they tell him, well, you can't go home. You have kidney stones. You need to have surgery. We won't let you fly home. So they're like, oh my gosh, I guess we have to stay and have surgery. And then he has surgery and they say, well, you can't fly home now. You just had surgery. So he was in the UK for a whole month because of this kidney stone thing. So imagine what he's thinking as the next vacation is approaching. Like he's terrified. But his two daughters are vegan and they live with him and he's been supporting their diet like a good dad. Well, it took him down. So here's what you do. And this is one of the reasons why I was lucky enough to avoid them, is because I drink lots of water. That's one. Exercise helps you burn through them. Cook them. Cooking your vegetables breaks down the oxalates. If you want to also remain healthy, if you have an oxalate problem or you eat a lot of oxalate foods, you should continue to take your calcium, because they do bind with your calcium. In fact, they even suggest that you eat your calcium with your vegetables together so that they bind in your stomach and then you can break them down. But some people just burn them more slowly than others. Young people can burn them at a faster rate because they burn everything off at a faster rate, like alcohol. So just be mindful of that. And hopefully we've averted a crisis, right? Don't have to be that oxalate kidney stone person. You know what to do now. All right. Orange juice suppresses your immune system for up to 6 hours. Like, how many of us were giving our kids orange juice to keep them healthy in school? And it's the opposite. So it's the sugar. It's the sugar. Sugar is known to stop white blood cell activity. And they can see this when they draw your blood. Sugar stops your white blood cell activity. So they literally did a study. This is known, but they did a study at Loma Linda where they drew people's blood, they made them drink orange juice, and then they drew their blood every hour to see how long this effect lasted. And it did last for 4 to 6 hours, depending on when they ate and all that kind of stuff. But there are better ways to get vitamin C into your kid, because an 8-ounce glass of no sugar added simply orange juice has 23 grams of sugar, and a full-size Hershey bar has 25. Like, you don't want to send your kid into school with that much sugar and then expect them to not have behavioral issues and expect them to not be fidgety. There are other ways. So, and it's even worse if you've been fasting, as in breakfast, you haven't eaten for hours and you have this sugar. It suppresses your immune system and it makes you fidgety and just, behavioral problems. We all know sugar crash, all that. So other ways to get vitamin C: strawberries, broccoli. 1 cup of broccoli has more vitamin C than if you freshly squeezed yourself an 8-ounce glass of orange juice. Bell peppers. There are so many other vegetables and fruit that are lower in sugar. Honestly, any fruit is better than juice, right? So just remember that. Avoid the orange juice for the kids. And of course, there's always supplements. You can give your kid a gummy vitamin. That's what I used to give my daughter instead. So, yeah, it's not your fault. You didn't know. Doctors don't tell you this stuff. If you keep showing up with colds, are they asking you if you're giving your kid orange juice? No, they don't think about it. Okay, so sugar is strongly linked to Alzheimer's and dementia. Yes, and that's also part of the other thing, because sugar causes inflammation, it causes all kinds of problems, and all of that is related to your mental health. But like I said, olive oil improves Alzheimer's and dementia and cognitive decline. Like, for real, improves it. Olive oil improves Alzheimer's and dementia. And if you have extra virgin olive oil for 3 months, in Alzheimer's patients, it alleviated anxiety-like behavior and sleep disturbances. It reduced neuroinflammation. It reduced the plaque in their brain. So, and then over 6 months, all of the above, plus it improved their memory. And this is in a study, there's tons of studies on this. And this particular study put them all together in a giant grid. It was beautiful. So you really need the extra virgin olive oil, and you should at least have 2 tablespoons a day. They're saying 6 if you really want to have the cognitive benefit. But think about it. For those of us, my grandmother had Alzheimer's. So it's something that weighs on my family, my next. man, I am taking this stuff like medicine, like cough syrup. I mean, I'm using it. I started using it on my salads instead of ranch dressing because I'm a ranch dressing girl. You know, take it like medicine if you have to, if it runs in your family. And if you eat a lot of sugar, if you have a history of drinking soda, because they actually do have links with the sugary drinks and Alzheimer's. Because, people, they think, oh, I don't have that much sugar, but if I asked you, is your family, are you a Coke family or a Pepsi family? And I can tell you, we were a Coke family. So we all did it. So it's okay. Now we know there's a way to reduce it. So this one, and of course, everyone's going to start drinking diet. But diet sweeteners cause prediabetes. Diet sweeteners cause prediabetes. Yes. And we are talking your stevia, your monk fruit, your Splenda Equal, all of them. And that's because your mouth detects this sweet flavor. Your mouth is part of your gut microbiome. It's part of your gut. It starts at your gut and ends at the back door. So it starts in your gut. You detect this sweet flavor and your body says, hey, we're having sugar. And it starts releasing all of this insulin. And then there's nothing for it to break down. So then you have insulin floating around in your body, and this is really bad. It hurts your cells. You were not meant to have insulin in our body. So immediately your body is saying, hey, we're not going to do this anymore. We've got to figure out how to stop all this insulin. So you're basically crying wolf with your body. So the next time you do eat sugar, your body is like not so likely to send out that insulin because it was a trick last time. So your body's very, very smart, and it really is trying to help you, but we keep messing with it, right? So what ends up is then you don't release the insulin, then your glucose levels are higher than they should be when you actually do have sugar. So we need to stop having this desire for sweet. And I'll tell you, it's I know it's hard. And prediabetes, so I gave up sugar ages ago, and I am pre-diabetic because I was the stevia woman. I was putting stevia in my coffee. I had my sugar-free chocolate protein bars, which were delicious, but they're full of sucralose. My sugar-free chocolate protein shakes, full of sucralose. So here I am now. I'm pre-diabetic, and I'm really irritated that my doctor never told me to not have artificial sweeteners. So pre-diabetes is bad because you're like, well, I can just keep it at pre-diabetes. Who cares? That's just a pre. It's not real. Wrong. So pre-diabetes is linked with long-term damage to your body, including to your heart, your blood vessels, and your kidneys, even if you don't ever get type 2 diabetes. Pre-diabetes is also linked to silent heart attacks. And then, of course, pre-diabetes can eventually turn into type 2, but even if you manage it at the pre-diabetes level, it's not good for you. So we really, really need to control this. In fact, here's a quote. Artificial sweeteners alter the composition of the microbiota and worsen the glycemic control owing to the changes of the gut microbiota. They studied that it is associated with all-cause mortality, cardiovascular risk, coronary artery disease risk, cerebrovascular risk, and cancer risk. This is pre-diabetes and artificial sweeteners. So it's we really need to get off of them. And I know it's hard, but I'll tell you, like I said, I was the artificial sweetener person. I am now pre-diabetic, but I now drink my coffee black. And I will tell you how to do that. Oh, here's another quote I'm going to read you. They also associated with an increased risk of stroke, all-cause dementia, and Alzheimer's. Also, this is the artificial ones, in addition to the sugar. They also showed how to study with animals where they gave rats intravenous cocaine or saccharin orally, and they had a choice between intravenous cocaine or oral saccharin, and they chose the saccharin. So it's not your fault. It's totally addictive. So how do you give up diet sweeteners? How do you really want to drink that coffee black, right? You're like, how is that possible? I know it's the only thing that keeps us happy is our sweeteners, right? But you got to try. And because again, Alzheimer's, this affects your kids, right? Same thing with the olive oil. I don't want to spoon olive oil in my mouth, but I told my daughter, this is for you. You're welcome. Because it does affect them. You're not going to know you lost your mind, but they will. So, how to give up sweeteners? So, reduction over time, give yourself some grace. So, I'll tell you how I did coffee. This one was the hardest. I couldn't even imagine ever liking black coffee. So, I started adding cinnamon and along with my packet of stevia. And over time, I went down to just half a packet of stevia and the cinnamon. And what happens is you remember the cinnamon. The cinnamon really kind of like it becomes what you're expecting. And then you just slowly, you get used to just half a packet. And then you go down to maybe a third of a packet and you get used to that with your cinnamon in your coffee. And then you go down to a quarter and then you go down. And I'll tell you, as you're doing this, your desire for sweets and other things, it's going to be like, yeah, it's going to shock you. Because now if I have a packet of stevia and something, it's too sweet. And to think I used to love that. So add cinnamon to your coffee and gradually reduce the artificial sweetener. You can do it. It's worth it. And coffee's good for you. It has polyphenols. Lemon water. Lemon water has been proven actually to reduce cravings for sugar. And it doesn't have any sugar. It doesn't affect your glycemic response at all. So throw some lemon. If you're having a craving, you like want to go start heading into the kitchen and looking for something yummy to eat, just force yourself to have a glass of lemon water and wait like 5 to 10 minutes and you'll realize that you're fine. A lot of it's mental. And I know this, I'm a compulsive eater. I would eat an entire box of See's candy. If you guys know what that is, I would eat an entire box of cookies, no problem. Box of donuts, no problem. Compulsive eater here. I've learned how to do it. So I was like, I'm on this journey with you guys. I'm just going first. Dark chocolate. Dark chocolate's good for you, but you got to aim for the 85% cocoa, okay? And start small. Start with a 50% dark chocolate and then move to the 85. And now if I'm craving something sweet, I let myself have some dark chocolate because honestly, it's good for you. It has a little sugar and that's normal. Your body's used to digesting a little sugar. So you're good. Dark chocolate. And then of course, fruit, and especially if you're going to choose a fruit, get to the point where you trade in the banana for berries. Berries are lower sugar. They're better for you. Bananas and pineapples and grapes are sugar bombs, but you can get there. So mix them together, have a little bit of grapes with your berries or whatever, mix it, and then reduce the really sweet stuff to the less sweet stuff. And over time, you will be able to give up your sugar and your desire for sweet. I've done it. It's amazing. It's really liberating. It's really liberating to like be able to walk by something going, oh, I know that's going to be too sweet for me. I'm not going to want it. That is not who I was 10 years ago at all. Mouthwash also causes diabetes because it has sweetener stuff in it, but it causes high blood pressure too. And so clinical trials and longitudinal studies have shown that chronic mouthwash is associated with increased blood pressure and increased risk for diabetes and hypertension. And then the other thing is that mouthwash, this is an interesting study, it limits the effect of exercise on lowering your blood pressure. So they literally had people do a treadmill and then they tested their blood pressure and then do a treadmill, use mouthwash, and then they tested their blood pressure and their blood pressure didn't go down because of the mouthwash. Like, exercise helps your blood pressure, but if you're using mouthwash, it doesn't. Isn't that crazy? So think about that. If you're struggling with high blood pressure, like if you're using the mouthwash, just walk away from that. You can figure something, just brush your teeth. You don't need the mouthwash. Yeah, I bet you didn't know that was contributing to it. So it's, there's crazy things your doctor isn't telling you, right? Even if you're trying, you're like, you didn't know that part. Coffee and cocoa prevent iron absorption by up to 90%. Now, coffee and cocoa are good for you, and they're good for you because of the polyphenols, but that is what prevents iron absorption. So again, back to me. I'm that person who was always borderline anemic. You're borderline anemic. And I'm like, how is this possible? I eat my leafy greens. I do all this stuff. I eat my fish. Well, I also enjoy a cup of coffee after lunch. I grab a coffee on the way back to the office after lunch. If I go out, I'll have coffee with dinner. And I love some dark chocolate after dinner also. I love a little sweet after my meal. So of course, I'm doing the complete every meal I'm negating. And so my iron is not being absorbed. So all you have to do is just wait an hour before, an hour after. So I make sure not to have my coffee. I stop having coffee an hour before I eat my meal. And I wait an hour before I have chocolate or another cup of coffee. That's easy. But I didn't know. I thought I was doing really well. Okay. So this next one about C-section babies, this one really pissed me off. I'm going to tell you. C-section babies are 20% more likely to get type 1 diabetes by the time they are 17. 20% more likely. And if they're given antibiotics in their first 2 years, they are even more at risk. And if they're given antibiotics in the first year, they're looking at getting it they're at high risk for getting it by age 10. So what they said this is due to, gut permeability or leaky gut is a precursor to type 1 diabetes. And C-section babies are born without the good gut bacteria because they didn't go down the chute. That's where we all get the good gut bacteria. So not having the proper gut microbiota, and you say gut bacteria, but there's actually more than just bacteria. That's why I tend to go to microbiota. But without your good gut bacteria, you can't digest your food. So you have these poor little C-section babies who have colic, acid reflux, gas. They're just miserable. And the family's losing their marbles because this baby's crying and is so miserable and they don't feel like there's anything they can do. And it's simply because they don't have any gut bacteria, the good stuff, to digest their food. Now, as I've explained before in my other episodes, if you don't have good gut bacteria, the lining of your gut, your intestines, it becomes weak and it becomes permeable. And the toxins that you're supposed to poop out seep into your body cavity and they inflame everything around. And in this case, they inflame the pancreas, which is nearby. So, and this is for anybody with leaky gut. They are definitely at higher risk for type 1 and type 2 diabetes. And that's not saying everyone who has leaky gut gets type 1 diabetes, but everyone who had type 1 diabetes had leaky gut. And you have to wonder, if we had healed their gut and replaced all their gut microbiota and got their gut healthy, could we have prevented type 1 diabetes? So with this, it kind of really made me mad. I spoke to a doctor and I asked him, look, C-section babies are missing their gut bacteria. And you know that antibiotics wipe out the rest of whatever they have. What's the protocol to replace their gut bacteria so they can at least digest their food, let alone prevent them from type 1 diabetes? And he said they don't have any. There's no protocol for that. And the thing about having a leaky gut is that you're prone to illness. So then these babies are always getting the ear infections and the sinus infections. And so guess what they get? More antibiotics. And then you keep getting sick and then you get more antibiotics. It's really awful, the fact that nobody's trying to heal their gut. So honestly, this really pissed me off because my cousin's daughter is struggling with, dealing with type 1 diabetes. And if you've ever had anybody with type 1 in your family, you know how you find out? Your child starts dying in front of you, literally starts dying in front of you. No one knows what's going on. You rush them to the hospital and then you find out. And then your whole life is turned upside down because you are on their blood count. You're looking at their glucose levels to keep them alive day and night. It's horrible. So here's the other thing. Leaky gut. So these babies are prone to leaky gut. Leaky gut is related to scarier stuff too. Like it's related to schizophrenia and autism and epilepsy, not to mention ADHD, anxiety, depression, and eczema. So, eczema is because of the inflammation. That if you have eczema, you basically have leaky gut. That's what that probably is, because you're just inflamed from all the stuff getting through your gut lining. So I also want to share this. It's quoting early onset schizophrenia in a group of cesarean births was 10 times higher than the incident of late onset schizophrenia. The natural childbirth group did not exhibit this. So it's the gut microbiota. So here's the good news. I found a company that helps heal babies' guts. It's by a mom. It's called Tiny Health. And she started it because her own daughter was a C-section baby and had colic and everything. So she reached out to them because I said, I'm going to talk about your company, and she's going to be on my next show. Her name is Cheryl Sue Hoy. The company's called Tiny Health, tinyhealth.com, and they will test your gut, your baby's gut, and give you a whole protocol to save their gut lining and to help them get back into shape so they can digest their food. So you guys, that was the most important. I hope you watch my next show with Tiny Health on here, Cheryl Sue Hoy. Maybe we can prevent type 1 diabetes in people. Wouldn't that be amazing? And anything else, all that other stuff. So I am out of time. I know I rattle a lot of science, but I hope something struck a chord and you can share it. Thank you. I'm so grateful you're here listening to me. I really am. And I hope you share this. My name is Jen. I'm here to help. This is Bright by Your Side on Transformation Talk Radio.
You have been listening to Bright by Your Side with Jen, up-leveling in the age of anxiety with groundbreaking science on Transformation Talk Radio. If you are considering mental health medication for yourself or your child, please try this first. Life skills and gut health are keys to reducing anxiety. Let us show you it's easier than you think. Tune in every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific time to feel optimistic about your own abilities and learn easy, proven ways to live life with ease. Become resilient to stress, anxiety, and overwhelm, and find joy. We're bringing you solutions to the problems stressing you out. We do the research for you and present it on a silver platter with a side of fun and laughter. Every show will leave you smiling, optimism, and joy in real time. To connect with Jen, visit brightbyyourside.com.